Good morning. Welcome to this webinar on the Welsh Government funded project called Working on Wellbeing. My name's Gareth Marshall, and thank you to Tamara and Sarah just now for helping us with the technical problems we had in setting this up. Just to make one correction, I don't actually work for Scope. I'm the managing director of a charity called Legacy in the Community. We're a small charity based in Merthyr Tydfil, although we work throughout Wales. But we are part of the Working on Wellbeing Wales project. We're a lead partner. We've been working with Scope on this project as well as other delivery partners since April 2020. The idea of this webinar this morning is just to give you some overviews on the disability and employment, some of the challenges that individuals come across when trying to look for work, and then an overview of the Working on Wellbeing project, and then a brief overview on the social and medical model of disability, and then I'll just give a quick overview of work we do with young adults 16 to 24 with additional learning needs. My first slide just sort of points out the numbers of disabled individuals throughout the UK. I'm using figures provided by the UK government. It's estimated in 21-22 that there are 16 million people in the UK who identify and have a disability. Now this number includes young children right through to people of older ages. But the actual figure that represents those who are of working age, so 16 to 65, equates to just over 10 million. Unfortunately, as many things with Wales and Scotland, with the deprivation and the economy, etc., in 2021 and 22, Wales and Scotland had the highest proportion of disabled people in the UK, which equates to 26%. Now that is 2% above the average, which for the average for the UK is 24%. As you can aware, there's quite a number of factors involved now, as I've already mentioned. The high rates of sickness in both countries, the ability of employment opportunities such as heavy industry, etc., historical closure of heavy industries and so forth. And the last, inequalities with health throughout regions. Even within regions of Wales, there are variations. Even like my health authority is Cwm Taf. Even within the Cwm Taf Health Authority, there are quite staggering inequalities in health, etc. So all these relate then to, as I say, disability and employment. I was going to ask some questions, but I'm not sure how it would work over here. But I'm curious to know if people knew what percentage of individuals are born with a disability. I'm not sure if there's anybody able to come up with any answers, Sarah. I'm not if we're able to display any of them. No? Well, out of interest, over 80% of disabilities are acquired through illness, injury, accidents, and so forth, which I think the perception of people are that most disabilities are children who are born with a disability, which really equates to under 17%. So we're all probably know someone, or may even be one individual who's acquired a disability through their life, through, as I say, through illness, accident, etc. And I say that equates to over 80% of disabilities. Another fact is that quite often we come across it, a perception of disability as those individuals who are wheelchair users or have some sort of more mobility issues, but in all reality, only 8% of people use a wheelchair in the UK. And quite often, as I say, that perception is that to be disabled, you have to have a mobility issue, like using a wheelchair or a white stick and so forth. And in reality, there are thousands of forms of disabilities ranging from any health conditions. As that phrase goes, not all disabilities are visual. Things like Crohn's, mental health conditions which are on the rise, and so forth. Likewise, on average, in 2023, the employment rate for disabled people was just over 53%, against a rate of 82% for non-disabled. I'll come across some of the reasons for that in the next couple of slides. And likewise, on average, disabled employees earn less than non-disabled employees. And that, according to the UK government figures, equates to on average £2 per hour per individual. Challenges in the workplace if you have a disability. So I'll just quickly go through these. So it's anger, anxiety or lack of confidence, difficulty adapting to new limitations, difficulty finding new job opportunities, limited job opportunities, physical barriers, inflexible work patterns, attitudes of workers and co-workers. If we look at the first one, anxiety or lack of confidence, that's usually related to the individual themselves, who may have some self-doubt in keeping or pursuing new opportunities or returning to familiar job. So linked to the second one, if you've acquired a new disability or a new illness, you may be low of confidence or self-doubt that you can go into the same job you did previously or the same career you did previously, due to the fact that your limitations or the opportunities may not be there, etc. A new disability may slow you down as you learn new ways to handle tasks. For instance, you may need to learn new skills such as using assistive technology, speech to text, new assistance with if you're hearing impaired, you may have to have an amplified hearing device, etc. Difficulty finding new job opportunities. You might find it hard to adapt from a previous job into a new job where you think your strengths may not align. So you may have worked perhaps in industry previously, and now due to limitations, you may need to have an office type job, etc. So that confidence may be lacking in that you can't take your skill set from one area you previously worked in into a new area. So again, limited jobs, securing unemployment can be a daunting task for anyone, but with someone with a disability or a new disability, there are limited job opportunities. We see that this within the Working on Wellbeing Wales project, where we speak to vast numbers of employers, and unfortunately, there is a stigma linked with disabilities. Quite often, as soon as you mention the word disabilities or a disabled individual, that sort of barrier, be it a physical barrier or invisible barrier, comes up straight away. It's this perception that if you're an individual with a disability, then you're restricted in what you can do. You need lots of adjustments in the workplace. There's a fear of litigation if the employer does something wrong, and some of these are obviously real, but some of these and most of these can be overcome with various things, which I'll go through a bit later. As I say, some industries may have misconceptions about the capabilities of people, disabled individuals, leading to a lack of poor policies when it comes to recruitment. They don't make adjustments for advertising, so they could, instead of having a paper advert, they could have a video advert and so forth. They don't have easy read application forms. They don't make adaptations when it comes to the interview. And quite often there's a question on, well, mostly now, there's a question on the application forms whether you declare a disability or not, or you prefer not to say. I've got no evidence there, but I would leave that down to the individual. And my fear would be that if you ticked the box and said you had a disability, then there's a possibility that that would be screened out before you went any further with the application. So, it's at this stage, it's imperative that employers recognize the skills and qualifications and the skill sets of individuals with disabilities, and, actively seek to diverse their workforce, which, increases their attraction to customer databases, improves the well-being of that employer, both socially and economically. Other issues that come across are physical barriers, which we're all aware of. You might encounter, the individual may encounter environments that are not suited to their physical needs, such as buildings with inadequate wheelchair accessibility, or the task they are set to do may not be an appropriate environment, even though the individual can do it. So it may need reasonable adaptations. there's also not just physical barriers, but there's also adaptations within the workplace. So challenges faced are the absence of proper support and accommodation in the workplace. So, for instance, if you're a diabetic and you need to take insulin several times throughout the day, there may not be a clean area you can go and give yourself that insulin, or there may not be facilities if you have a colostomy or something like that where you need to go and have that private time to yourself. Or if you may have a mental health condition, you may need to have a quiet room where you can go and sit, um, you know, just to take yourself away from that environment for a short period of time. Um, there are quite often in work environments, that strict work hours or policy that take breaks can make it difficult for you to focus on your physical and mental needs while you're on the job. So quite often employers need to try to introduce flexible working arrangements. Um, they can arrange for specialized equipment, assistive technologies, or reasonable adjustments, which I'll come across to when we come to access to work, etc., to improve the work environments. And this just wouldn't apply to individuals who declare disability, but it may encourage those workforce already who may be uh, conscious of declaring their disability, may allow them to sort of come to the front and say, yeah, I can work, I can do this, I can declare to my employer because they've made these reasonable adjustments that they can adapt for me to work. Um, Attitudes on workers and co-workers. Unfortunately, we still live in a society where people see stereotypical misconceptions of individuals who identify as having a disability. Um, this links in with the medical model of disability. Often our society still tends to focus on the limitations of a disabled individual rather than recognize the unique skills and abilities that they have. Um, Unfortunately, these misconceptions can lead to unconscious bias during the hiring process, um, resulting in missed opportunities for individuals, misconceptions in the workplace itself. Um, so, therefore, talented individuals are often excluded from the workforce. I mean, it's also a fact that I should have mentioned earlier on that it's a fact that within inequalities within education and disabled individuals are less likely to have a degree and more likely to have no qualifications at all. That's because obviously during schooling they may have missed lots of schooling due to their health condition or their disability, and so forth. So I'll just move on to the next. Oh, I put up something there called the Purple Pound, which applies mainly to employers. Employers who exclude um, a workforce of including disabled individuals. The Purple Pound refers to the amount of money that's available, spending power of disabled households. So that includes the disabled individual and their family. So that can be around buying adaptations or having adaptations in their houses, clothing perhaps, or equipment they need. And then in the UK in 2020, it was thought to be worth 249 billion, and that's increasing year on year. So that's a staggering sum of money where employers, by not tapping into the disabled workforce and into the disabled customer market and database, are missing out, and as you can see, an staggering sum of money. Right, the Working on Wellbeing Wales project. This is a project that was an application was made by a previous company called Legacy International Group and Scope back in 2019. In 2019, they made an application to the Welsh Government to run what's called the Working on Wellbeing Wales project. They were successful. And as of April 2020, literally just as COVID began, the project began as well. The project was initially a 3-year project funded by the Welsh Government Sustainable Social Services Third Sector Grant. So that's, various things to improve the well-being of Wales. So it covers education, health, the environment, and so on and so forth. And basically, it's an employment program aimed at those individuals who identify as having a disability and or a long-term health condition. I can't read Welsh, so I do apologise. It's there bilingually, but unfortunately, I don't speak Welsh. Uh, there's areas within it. It's within three parts really. There's a pre-employment program. There's a program where part of the project where we work with employers, organisations to promote inclusive equality and diversity practices, to encourage them to employ individuals with a disability or long-term health condition, to support employers. We also promote the Disability Confidence Scheme and Access to Work, which I'll come on to shortly. Um, so the Working on Wellbeing Wales project, initially, as I say, was a 3-year project. We were fortunate in that in 2021, the Welsh Government extended the project by another 2 years. So where it was due to end last March, it's now due to end next year, and hopefully we'll have further funding for that. There are a number of delivery partners within there. So the delivery partners, initially it was a program that just focused on the Valley. So Scope, the national charity, delivered the employability program in Cardiff, the Vale, as far as Bridgend and the Valley, so RCT and Merthyr. My role then as a business development manager then was to roll out the program pan Wales. So as you can see from this graph, we now deliver the program pan Wales. So we have an organisation called Resource, which are involved in recycling and upcycling, who deliver the program throughout North Wales. So it includes Anglesey, so it's quite a massive area. Swansea, Neath Port Talbot is delivered by Whitehead Ross. They're a well-known organisation who are involved in education and learning. Disability Can Do, a charity, deliver the employment program throughout Gwent, so that's from Monmouth down as far as Newport and across as far as Chepstow. And as is mentioned, Cardiff cover Rhondda Cynon Bridgend, and Cardiff and Merthyr valleys. That left a gap in West Wales and Powys. Initially, the charity Leonard Cheshire, became involved in delivering in West Wales, and unfortunately, I couldn't find a delivery partner for delivering in Powys due to the demographics and the large geographical area. So as of 2021, we left LIG and we formed a charity called Legacy in the Community. And early and then in 2022, following conversations with the steering group, myself as the head of the charity took on delivering the project in West Wales and Powys. So we now have full delivery partners throughout the whole of Wales who deliver the pre-employability programme, as I say, in these areas. Right, so these are tailored courses. They're called Starting Line and Kickstart. Kickstart's not to be confused with the UK government one that was announced roughly the same time as we started this programme. This is purely a Welsh government funded programme, so there's no involvement from the UK government. So Starting Line is a pre-employment program. It's mainly aimed at those individuals who may never have worked or have been out of work for many, many years, and need that extra confidence to get back into work. They may have become disabled in that time, they have a long-term health condition, and they're not sure how to how to get themselves back into the workplace and back onto that work journey. So it's a 7-week program, as I say. It's tailored within reason to a group of individuals. We tend to run in groups of no more than 10, so we have that individuality, and we can work with those various groups of various individuals who have various different needs. So we do the normal things, let's be perfectly honest. So we work with them to write CVs, how to apply for jobs, learn about their rights at work, to talk about their disability or the long-term health condition, how to approach an employer and discuss that when they go into work. They have group sessions on a weekly or a fortnightly basis, and then they're allocated an employment advisor from whichever team they're in, and that one-to-one employment advisor then will give the individual support for up to 26 weeks with regular phone calls, help with job searching, when they go into work, and now the outcomes for these part of the project is clearly sustaining sustainable employment, volunteering opportunities, or placements. So it's not just about getting the individual into a job, it's about getting the individual into the right job, supporting them when they're in work, but importantly, and just as importantly, is working with the employer to support them in supporting that individual in work. So that could be directing them towards other charities who may be able to support them, different funding pots, or directing them with the new employee towards access to work. So as I say, that runs over 7 weeks, aimed at those individuals who have been out of work or may never have worked, may even be a school leaver who just needs that extra boost and confidence to get into work. Kickstart is a very similar uh, process, but that's aimed more at those individuals who may not have been able to work very long, 18 months, 2 years, and just need that extra boost and support to get them back on that journey back into work. So similar things. So it's working with updating their CVs, going through interview techniques, and then working with the employment advisor to job search and to provide encouragement in applying for jobs, etc. These both parts of the projects or courses may involve inviting outside employers in or outside organisations. For instance, I know for example, Cardiff have had Welsh Water come in. We've also had health authorities come in, and they discuss what opportunities they have within their organisations. Sometimes we have opportunities where we can take candidates into a work environment so they can see what the environment's like. They may have a couple of hour session there, so you can have a taster of how that goes as well. So that's that in a nutshell. Let's go back to there. So there's no right or wrong way to join these two courses. If the individual start in line and wants to move into Kickstart after that, that's fine. The criteria for entering these courses is quite straightforward. You have to be 16 plus, and we always say 16 206. If you're looking for work, we'll work with you. Because it's a Welsh Government funded project, you have to be living in Wales. You don't have to be claiming any benefits, and you can self-identify as having a long-term health condition or a disability. So at no point do we request a formal diagnosis letter from a consultant or a GP. If you tell us or tell one of our partners that you identify as having a disability, we take your word for that and we enroll you onto the program. The program is fairly straightforward. You can either go onto each partner's website where there'll be a referral form. Referrals can be via a third party, providing they have the consent of the individual they're referring. So we work a lot with job centres, other organisations. We've worked with referrals from Communities for Work, Mind, and various other organisations, but primarily at the moment it's job centres. We have good relationships with job centres throughout various regions. And as I say, so it's quite straightforward. Or the individual themselves can refer themselves. As I say, they can either contact the relevant number on the websites of our delivery partners, or they can fill in the form. Then someone will contact them, go through a very basic triage form, and then everything being okay, they'll give them a date when the next group will start, and then obviously they progress then onto the group. We do offer two alternatives. You can either do a group face-to-face, or we can run it digitally. For example, my team cover West Wales, so that covers Carmarthenshire, Pembrokeshire, and Ceredigion, so a large area. So we have a group starting next week where it'll be an hybrid group where we have referrals from Ceredigion, we have referrals from Pembroke, and we have referrals from Carmarthenshire, which you can imagine logistically is quite difficult to get them together in one location. So we'll run that as a digital group where we'll run the group sessions digitally, and then the one-to-one sessions will either be digitally again, or preferably there'll be one-to-one sessions, so where the employment advisors will meet them in a central location and go through the process with them of what jobs they're looking for, what skills they need to develop. All partners work with training organisations, so within reasons, we can offer training programs, health and safety, first aid, manual handling, etc., or we can refer them on to other organisations who can offer further training like SIA cards or I can't think it's called now, and other training like that for working on labouring sites and so forth. Uh, Also, we can encourage them to go back into education. We have links with colleges and so forth, so we work with them to get them there. So as I say, the outcomes are mainly based around, yes, we have outcomes, but I think if you spoke to every parent, it's about quality rather than quantity. Yes, we have to get the numbers there, but it's about, we're not driven by finances. Our funding is fixed. So, you know, if we got 60 into work or 120, the funding doesn't change. So for us, it's getting that quality of getting the right individual into the right job, supporting that individual and supporting that employer. So the individual sustains employment or sustains that volunteering opportunity. So they're not falling out of work. They don't feel they've been pushed into something. They have the support there. As I say, we'll support them for 26 weeks, and hopefully we can put other measures in there to support them when they're in work and to support the employer. Um, Access to work. This is an interesting section. Um, Access to work. This is a UK government fund that provides physical and supportive workplace accommodations to foster and support employee retention in the workplace. Within the sector, this is known as the best kept secret. This, up until fairly recently, wasn't widely advertised. For instance, I didn't know anything about it until I joined this organization. And basically, it's a pot of money where an employee working with his employer can apply for grants to support well-being and support while in work. So that can be a job aid, it can be a support worker, it can be if you have difficulty getting to work, you can have a taxi to bring you into work or support to pay somebody to bring you into work. It can be access to support for counselling for mental health. It can be a BCL interpreter. It can be accommodation within the workplace. So, for instance, if somebody may have a back injury and needs that extra support with their chair or their table, an application can be made to access to work, and there's no guarantees with everything, but if that's all okay, they can get financial grants to pay for that. The financial grants can be applied for by anybody. It doesn't matter, how much you earn. It's all based on your needs. There may be a requirement to have a letter of support from your GP or consultant to prove your disability. For instance, myself, I have a number of health conditions. I made an application to Access to Work with the support of my employers at that time. I now have a support worker who supports me for 8 hours a week. I also, at one point, due to my illness, was unable to drive, and I had access to supported driver where Access to Work would just pay for a driver to bring me into work or public transport. It's quite staggering in the sense that this fund, the pot is up to £66,000 a year per individual. Now, it obviously does depend on the disability and the long-term health condition. The employer, depending on the size of the number of employees they have, may have to contribute some money towards that application and that grant. The process was laborious. It was a paper exercise. There's recently been a UK government consultation, and they've pushed the DWP to start advertising this program. The system has now gone online, which makes it quicker. For instance, my application is now done online, and the payment is made to the organisation within 4 weeks, whereas the application could have taken up to 16 weeks. So that's actively being pushed. If anybody would like further information, they can go onto the UK government website and type in Access to Work, and it'll have full information on that there. So it's worth mentioning that it's a valuable tool. Some simple accommodations, adjustments in reasonable adjustments in the workplace can make a vast difference for those individuals, and then give them an opportunity then to get into work which they may have thought was not possible. So as I say, it can be physical, it can be mental health support, and it can be support with admin and so forth. So you can be a self-employed individual, or you can be a director earning a substantial sum. It's open to anybody. Obviously, you have to meet criteria, but I would certainly encourage people to make an application to access to work if they think they meet the criteria, which is, as I say, identified on the website. As an organisation or as a project working on Wellbeing Wales, we actively encourage and promote the Disability Confidence Scheme. For those who may not be aware, the Disability Confidence Scheme is, again, a UK government scheme which is designed to be aimed at employers, to encourage them to actively add value to their workplace by hiring individuals with unique skills, with disabilities, with long-term health conditions, and talent, experience, and demonstrating equity in their recruitment processes. So there's three processes. There's three parts to it. So the first one is you apply to become a disability committed employer. So it's a basic, you go through paperwork, so you go through, demonstrate that you have policies in place, like equal opportunities when it comes to recruitment, that your workspace is diverse and equal and approachable for those individuals. Your interview process likewise is the same. You can stay in that process for a number of months, then you can move up to disability employer. So you've improved your diverse and equality policies within your employment policies and within your workplace. And then you move up to a disability confident leader. That has to be independently verified by another organisation who are despondent leaders, and that's to prove that it's not just a paper exercise, that you have actually put in place policies, actions to make your workplace more equal and diverse in employing disabled individuals and those with long-term health conditions. Is the scheme working? I'm not really sure. In Wales, there are just over 800 employers who are registered as disabled, were registered on the Disability Confidence Scheme. But out of them, just over 800, only just under 30 are registered as disability confident leaders. So it's it's a small number out of 800. What you get for registering is, I'm going to be controversial here, a pretty little badge which you can put on your website. There's been recent discussions again on a paper that was released earlier this month that there's a call for more legislation behind the Disability Confidence Scheme, that it has a spine, it has validity where it's regulated, where perhaps an inspector or someone could come in, judge that you are doing what you were doing, so you're not just got the badge displayed on your website or your paperwork, etc. So it adds some legitimacy to the scheme. So an individual who may have a disability knows with confidence that when they apply for a job to a company that's displaying the disability confident leader sign, that they'll be treated fairly, etc. I also feel that, and this is my own individual feelings, so my apologies if I'm going down the road, that it should be obligatory for all national organisations and government organisations that they become disability confident leaders. So that should apply to local authorities. For instance, my local authority isn't a disability confident leader. It should apply to schools. It should apply to health authorities and so forth. So I do apologise for sharing personal feelings, but that's the way I feel about the Disability Confidence Scheme at the moment. I think it's underused and it could be used far better. That's the Working on Wellbeing Wales project. That does cover, I hope, everything. If everybody got some questions before I move on to the next step, please let me know and I can answer them before I move on to the ALN programme. No, I've got no slides for the next part, but what I wanted to mention is that part of the Working on Wellbeing Wales project is to deliver an ALN program to young adults with additional learning needs, 16-24, to give them some skills so they end up not becoming out of education, or they become neat. So they're not in education, they're not in training, so they become unemployed. Legacy in the community have been involved with that from the beginning. We were hampered quite severely with COVID for the first 2 years of the programme. So over the last year or so, we've been involved in working with a number of schools. What we have found with conversations with not just ALN colleges and schools, but also mainstream schools, is that there's a need for individuals when they leave school, they seem to be missing basic skills. And when I say basic skills, I mean things like opening bank accounts, budgeting, so forth. So what we've come up with is an 8 to 9 week program where we work with ALN schools, and we have a series of weeks where we go through various different things. Likewise, budgeting, CV writing, applications, and opportunity searching, communication and certain enough. So that's role play based, teaching body language, skills and how to listen in conversations, and how to respond, how to act, etc. Again, work skills, a practical session will learners through role play, engage with team building games. They also, learn telephone skills, how to answer the phone, how to speak to someone, formally, etc. Well-being, and I should have mentioned, I'm sorry, the Working on Wellbeing Wales focused, as it's evolved, it was a pilot program, as it's evolved, the focus has reflected the needs of those individuals who have come onto the program. Lots of it has now been tailored towards well-being. Lots of our candidates have mental health problems, mental health conditions. So it's not just, focusing the 7 week courses on you must get into a job. It's building their confidence, working on them. We recognise that in 7 weeks, if somebody's not worked for 20 years or whatever, you're not going to get them to change. But if we can work on their well-being and build that slight confidence in 6 months' time, they may be able to go into work. So for us, well-being throughout the whole delivery partners and the project is hugely, as it's reflected in the title. For instance, we've just recently introduced coffee mornings in our patch in Powys, where people are invited to come along, have a chat, we talk about the project, if they want to join, or they just want a bit of confidence by coming to these sessions, we involve. So us and our partners have evolved the program to involve that aspect of well-being on the project, rather than just solely focusing on getting into work. So back to the NA program, we're working with 4 schools at the moment. 2 are residential ALN schools with a wide spectrum of ALN students. They're both fantastic places. We work with a school also in the Swansea area. Again, that's a brilliant place to work with, and we have ongoing relationships with these and move from them. So that's the session on the Working on Wellbeing Wales. If I can get into the next session, I will show you a brief slide on working on the social and medical model of disability. If I can just show that. I've used Scope's presentation rather than put up them together. This is a very good presentation. It goes through what the social model of disability is versus the medical model. So bear with me, and hopefully you'll be able to hear this. Sorry, we're just trying to find the sound.
Okay, perhaps we could share the website link in the chat.
Yes, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, we'll do it. My apologies for that. So the social model of disability is a way of viewing the world developed by disabled people. So Scope's view is that, well, not just Scope's view, but the scope is that the model says that people are disabled by barriers in society, not by their impairment or disability. Barriers can be physical, like buildings not having accessible toilets or entrances, or they can be caused by people's attitudes to the difference, like assuming disabled can't do certain things. The social model, as you say, as you can see, helps us recognize barriers that make life harder for disabled people. Removing these barriers creates equality and offers disabled people more independence, choice, and control. So we're looking at the individual. We're not looking at the individual's disability or long-term health condition. We're looking at the skills the individual can bring, um, the, the benefits they can bring to society. We're not looking at those individuals who may have a health condition, so the health condition is preventing them from doing. So negative attitudes, prejudice and stereotypes can stop disabled people from having equal opportunities. This can be, as I've discussed previously, work, living independently, sexual activities, having children. This is opposed to what's generally in our society today is the medical model of disability, which says having a disability um, makes the individual have an impairment or different. The medical looks at what is wrong with the person, not what the person can provide, not what's wrong with society, but what's wrong with the person, not what the person needs, as it says. We believe that low expectations and believe this leads to low expectations and leads to people losing independence, choice, and control in their lives. So, for example, you're a disabled person who can't use stairs and wants to get into a building with a step at the entrance. The social model recognises that this is a problem with the building, not the person, and would suggest adding a ramp to the entrance. We have seen in recent years where new buildings, particularly in Wales, where there are ramps to new buildings, where there's sockets up at a height where a wheelchair user can use them, where doors are widened, bathrooms are available for disabled people. So it's about improving aspects in society. It's not looking at the individual and saying, that individual can't do things because he or she has a health condition. It's about adapting our environment, adapting our buildings, adapting our workplace, and moving forward with that. So my apologies, I can't show that. I will show that. That's the end of my presentation. I'm sorry if I've been a bit hesitant throughout it and for the technical problems, but please, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask and I'll try and answer them. Well, thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Tamara, and thanks for all those listening. And if you need any more information, please just let me know, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much. Bye.